Hello everyone and welcome back to City Skylines, New York. This is episode 3, and in today's episode we are going to be focusing mainly on the borough of Brooklyn. Today's episode is we're going to be building up the downtown as well as this lovely little neighborhood called the Brooklyn Heights. It's a nice little posh, fancy little neighborhood up in Brooklyn, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the obvious first step to building anything in City Skylines is to obviously have your road layouts planned out and just ready to go. But unfortunately for you guys, you're not really going to be able to see that in today's video because what I recorded got corrupted. So a lot of this road planning, road layouts that you see here, especially this little interchange for the Brooklyn Bridge and the little freeway that runs through it. It's just corrupted. It's gone. I can't show it. So we're just gonna start the episode off here in this sort of like where I start building, or where I start plopping down some like skyscrapers and just sort of getting like the general idea of what I want this skyline to look like. Again, this is not at all going to be exact to what is actually in Brooklyn or downtown Brooklyn. It's going to be my own rendition, but I'm definitely going to try and like capture the essence of what actually exists in real life. So don't expect going into Google Maps and seeing what you see on the video here. So yeah, but something that I am, the buildings that I am using are mostly like modern skyscrapers, I believe most of them are actually apartment buildings, just like high-end luxury apartment buildings, because that's kind of like a trend that's been happening in New York City recently, which is probably a bad thing, because it just raises up like land values and rental prices, stuff like that, which makes living in New York City a huge pain for the locals, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's a very common trend with like I believe it's called like Billionaires Row, which is like a street that like a general area in like Upper Manhattan, like just south of Central Park. I forgot the street names that it kind of encompasses, but it's just this little it's just an area of development that like just a lot of like super tall, skinny skyscrapers are built for like people that can afford multi-million-dollar apartments, which is definitely not like your average New Yorker. But the negativity aside, they are pretty impressive feats of engineering just by themselves. So, anyways, back to the video. You're gonna see me build a lot of these like little parks around downtown Brooklyn, because there's actually a surprising amount of just greenery around this area, which is great for quality of life and just obviously just living there. But just to like kind of reflect that in this video, I'm gonna be building a couple parks around the downtown, surrounding like these typically surrounding these like modern apartments that I'm placing down, because I'm assuming that's where people want to live. So that's kind of where these apartments are going to be placed at, or built, if they were to exist in real life. But yeah, one thing that I definitely didn't like really accomplish well in this little build for today's video is I still want to recreate a version of, I believe it's called Fulton Avenue or Fulton Street, which is basically this like large avenue just surrounded by high-end commercial and just shopping stores. It's a really good place to just go and shop. It's a very popular destination for both tourists and locals in downtown Brooklyn. So probably in the future, when I get back to this sort of build, I'm gonna do my best to recreate that street. So the building that you see on screen right now, it's supposed to be the dime savings bank of Brooklyn, but I couldn't actually find anything on the workshop that actually even like resembled it. So I just ended up using this. I think it's like some sort of French building. I don't know, but it definitely doesn't like do the actual building any justice. So I'm probably gonna come back to this area and the building specifically later in a future episode when when I build the Fulton Avenue sort of shopping district area, because well, that's where the building is. But yeah, I just kind of want to do the building a little bit more justice, because while I don't know much about it, it does seem to be like quite like important building, and just a little piece of history of downtown Brooklyn. So I do want to do it a little bit more justice than what I did in today's video. But moving on to the actual Brooklyn Heights neighborhood, I actually really find this neighborhood really interesting, because it overlooks the skyline of Manhattan, and it also just has fantastic views of the Statue of Liberty as well. And it has this park that just like runs along the edge of the hill, but sadly there is this freeway that just sits right beneath it, like literally below your feet, below the park. It's just a terrible place to put a freeway. I don't know who decided to do that, but like while you're at that park, you just hear the constant traffic below you, which isn't great at all for like noise pollution, or even probably just quality of life of just living close to that street. But yeah, it is what it is. It's there. I managed to build it, and I'm actually quite proud of how it actually ended up turning out, as well as just the neighborhood in general. I really like how this neighborhood turns out. It looks really great with tree-lined streets, which is a very important thing that's actually like well known for this type of neighborhood here. It has the beautiful brownstone housing units with the tree-lined streets, and it's just a fantastic place to live in general. But going back to the brownstones, it's actually a very big part of my videos in general, because I've been using a lot of the same style of housing throughout my past 2 videos. So I don't know if I'm overdoing it at all in any way, but I know that New York just tends to have a lot of brownstones. So yeah, just let me know if you think I'm overusing these sorts of buildings, but at the same time, that's really all that exists in the workshop, at least that I know of, and to my knowledge, that's basically just what New York is actually. It's basically what you see in most neighborhoods. So yeah, if you think I'm doing something wrong, please let me know, as well as any suggestions that you think I might try to actually integrate into the videos here to make my city a little bit more realistic and a little bit more true to the actual city of New York. But another thing I tried to accomplish with this sort of neighborhood here was to not have like a really strict grid, because while the neighborhood and the downtown as a whole does sit on some sort of grid, it's very like it changes a lot. Like it changes in like it's just like a rotated grid. There's like a lot of like actual angled streets that make for a lot of weird angles and a lot of weird sort of things going on with the shapes of the little blocks. So it's pretty difficult to actually build in this sort of area, but I managed. There's a lot of actually a lot of like these little angled triangled shapes buildings on the workshop that help a lot with this sort of neighborhood and the weird little corners that these streets create. But it's realistic, I think, to what actually exists in New York, just purely based on the road layout that exists there. And yeah, currently I'm working on my own little version of, I believe it's called Flatbush Avenue, which is an interesting street for me, at least, because well, for one thing, it's a large like avenue, and it's not something that it's not something that's common in New York, or at least downtown Brooklyn. There's usually a lot of these like smaller like 2-lane streets in the area, so seeing like an actual large avenue is not very common. So I decided to like detail this little section a little bit more than I usually would, because obviously I don't want to have to run into the future of not having the ability to load up the save or play with decent frame rates and all that, and just having to end the series prematurely just due to the fact that my save will probably just become unplayable in some future. So I just want to avoid that by not having to detail too many areas, just the areas that I think are important and I will actually visit later on in the future and for cinematics and all that good stuff. But yeah, going back to the street itself, it's interesting to me because it's like lined with a bunch of these like modern skyscrapers, modern apartment buildings, and as well as like every once in a while you just come across like a little section or a little block that just has like these lower density buildings, like usually restaurants or maybe some sort of like housing units, but it's typically restaurants, just smaller buildings just next to these huge skyscrapers. So that's something that I wanted to achieve here in this section of the build. But my version of it also serves as a transition from the taller skyscrapers to the lower like profile housing units of the neighborhood. So yeah, you probably saw earlier when I was just quickly plopping down some industrial buildings by the Brooklyn Bridge and Manhattan Bridge. I'm mostly doing that as a way to make up for the fact that there is no I believe it's like a shipyard or like a Navy shipyard. I'm not quite sure what actually goes on there, but it does seem to look like there's some sort of like industrial park there. So I'm just placing those down, probably temporary. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that little area in the future, but I just don't know if I actually want to build that Navy like shipyard. I might just put like a dock or something just to make up for the fact. But if it's something that you guys actually want to see me do in a future episode to build the Navy yard that exists there, just let me know in the comments. I'll look into it, and I'll probably try and find some assets that would go well for a build such as that. But yeah, I don't know if I actually want to do it, but if you guys do, then by all means I will be more than happy to actually try and build something like that in that general area. So yeah, we're moving on to this little neighborhood that's just I believe it just sits south of the Brooklyn Heights. But yeah, I did just end up having this entire road layout just here because I wanted to see if I could actually tackle this sunken freeway section, because it's another little unique thing to have in this sort of area. I don't know, but it was interesting, so I just decided to build it, and just sort of to like end off the episode here. But yeah, that is the end of today's episode. I know it was out a little bit late. I was supposed to have it out last week, but just stuff happened in real life, so it's out a bit later. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This was episode 3, and I'll see you guys in episode 4 of City Skylines New York. Bye.